This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Shirin.
I'm Meaghan. I do not sound like that. You overemphasize that so intensely.
I had to do it properly. This was my first go at it.
It's like you were reading a prompt for a commercial. That was so funny. I think it's because I'm looking at your face while you're doing it, and you're like overly enthusiastic about it.
I was going for infomercial.
There you go. Very nice.
On this week's episode of Fully Booked, it's the second week of April?
Yes.
Second week?
Yes.
And so we thought, Meaghan alluded to this in our episode last week. We thought that we would just kind of have a little chit chat because there aren't any big movie adaptations out this week. And we were thinking about, what are some of the topics we want to discuss?
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of landed on, hey, there's been a bunch of adaptations that we've watched. There's some books that we've read that we haven't had a chance to talk about. And so, and we usually do an annual wrap up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But
we will also, obviously.
We will for sure. But we only ever get to talk about 5 books at that time or 5 whatevers. And so we thought, hey, why don't we just do a quick, hey, this is April. Here's been our favorites so far, whether it be a book or an adaptation.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to do, that's it. Just stuff we've been reading, stuff we've been watching, all of the things. And it gives us an excuse to be positive about stuff and talk about something that makes us happy, which is really nice because everybody's real stressed out. So if we're a bit low energy, apologies, but life is lifing.
Life is lifing and the world be whirlin' this week, people. It's April 8th. And I'm already exhausted of April. So
I think most people are.
If happier times could just kind of hurry up, that'd be great.
I would be so happy if we could just move past a little bit of this stuff. But in the meantime, we have these things that we're watching and these things that we're reading to keep us distracted. So that's what we're going to do. Do you want to kick things off with books? Books that we want to kind of shout out just as stuff that we've enjoyed kind of in this first quarter of the year? Okay.
Sure, let's do that. So I can start. One of, when we started thinking about this one of the ones that came to mind that I did enjoy quite a bit was an ARC that was sent to us by HarperCollins, To Cage a Wild Bird. It was really fun to read because it felt very much like a callback to The Hunger Games, kind of a time of our youth when dystopian fiction was really, really big. I guess mid 2010s or whatever, 2010s.
Yeah, I think late 2000s into mid 2010s, there was just an explosion of them.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
It was just everywhere. What was great about reflecting, I know I had mentioned this book when we were recording an episode, and I also wrote a review about it over on our website. But what's so great about this book, and then I think just dystopian fiction in general, I'm all about the characters in a book. And this genre tends to lean very heavily on like character development.
True.
Because it's, yes, there's like world building because you have to understand like what's at stake, why, like what drives the characters, what's going on in the, social environment, the economic, whatever, the political, however you want to kind of position it. But it leans so heavily into the characters because there is an element of, I guess, survival, but also risk of losing these characters as you go along in these stories. And I found that this author did a really great job of kind of reviving that feeling from the Hunger Games, from things like Maze Runner, Divergent, I Am Number 4, wasn't that one?
Yeah, that definitely kind of falls into that category. There was like the fifth wave, like there were so many, so many.
There was even like shows like The 100. There was
that's true.
So many different things, and so there's always like this like lovable character, kind of a one that the other characters need to save. There's always obviously your main character, which I love it when it's a girl, because it's like she's strong, she's not going to take anything from anyone, and she's surviving. And it's always, not always, but there's usually a good story of like her character development, and there was in this one specifically where she had been hardened by what was going on around her. Her parents had been killed. She had to look after her little brother.
Right.
She had to do things that she was not necessarily proud of doing, but she had to do it for her survival and her brother's ultimately. But through her development in this prison of all places, it softened her and it helped her understand that there's more to life than just survival, because just surviving isn't really how we as humans thrive.
Right.
And so she built relationships with a lot of the other characters, which then turned into, as a reader, you're kind of like, oh shit, someone's gonna die.
I mean, yeah, that's usually what it is there's like some sort of tragedy that they need to overcome as characters in order to like find their way forward and stuff.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. So I guess first one on my list would be the one that I read pretty much at the beginning of the year, How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days by Jessie Silva. This was also an ARC that we'd received, which was lovely. I think because it was like crappy and cold outside in early January, this was adorable. This is like a very cozy fantasy kind of story that follows a halfling and a goblin who both are under the impression that they each own or are able to live in the same house. One of them, it was their aunt who left it to them, allegedly, supposedly, and the other one, it was her grandmother who left it to her after she passed away. They basically have like an enemies to lovers arc in like the cutest way possible, but there's also kind of a story within it about prejudice and accepting one's self and not simply judging someone by, in this case, their species. But, it's something that kind of like leans into the idea of like racism and prejudice and things like that. And it had a really sweet love story at its center. It's got like a cute little like LGBTQ romance in it. It was fun. The setting was lovely. It felt very like springtime. So for the particular weather that we were experiencing at the time, it was also just nice to have. So that was a fun way, I think, to kick off the year. I read that like right at the beginning of January.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I really want to read that one, actually. You keep talking about that.
Yeah, it's a cute one. I had a digital copy of that one that we'd received.
Yeah. Blanket disclosure, y'all. Most of the books that I'm going to be talking about are either ARCs or books that I read for one of our adaptations. So I'll try and stay away too much from the ones that we've read for adaptations. Life be a little crazy here between work and the bebe. So I am able to indulge in the ARCs, which so far have been pretty decent this year. Second one I want to talk about is Murder Bimbo. This ARC, I actually requested this one. I can't remember who the publisher was.
You did. It's true.
I did, because I was scrolling through some of our publishers' websites, and they have like pages of upcoming books. And when I saw Murder Bimbo, I was like, yes, please. You know how you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover or its title in this case.
You sure did.
I sure did. I was like, hey, you know what? This just looks, it's got to be funny or fun, right?
Yep.
So the story of Murder Bimbo, and I have a review of this one up on our website as well, is the story of a sex worker who is basically hired by a group of people to kill the president of the United States. Actually, he's the presidential candidate.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they want to kill him to prevent this person from getting in power, because they are very charismatic. They are very influential. They have a very big following, a very big, political base of people of all ages who are, I would say, I guess, more right-leaning. And basically the group decides that this person is for sure going to get elected in, and it would be very bad for the entire world if this person is elected. The politician in this book is named, is it Meathead? I think it's Meathead.
I think that's what she calls him, or what she refers to him
She
as.
calls him, yeah, it's like his code name.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm saying it's a group of people is because when I first started reading Murder Bimbo, I was like, okay, this makes sense. She, is a sex worker from a specific background where, maybe her family wasn't as supportive of her and her life choices. And so she's not talking to them. She's been recruited by the CIA, and I'm using air quotes here, because she's attending a seminar at, I believe it's MIT, about about the CIA. And so she gets recruited to help them. And so when she finds out what the mission is, she immediately kind of packs up and leaves, because she's like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to jail for y'all. And she walks into this protest against Meathead, and she sees this group of people and how passionate they are about, protecting themselves and the good of the world. And reflecting on her experience with her family, she's like, you know what? Yes, let's kind of go back and do this thing. So, you're kind of along for the ride for part one. And then in part two, I got real confused, because I was like, did I miss a huge chunk of the story? Because she starts talking about how the group of people who hired her, actually in the first part, she finds out that the group of people who hired her, they're not the CIA. This is in part one. They're not actually the CIA. They're a bunch of, so it's a group of white supremacists. And she's like, I would have thought that you would be like the target audience for this guy. And they're just like, no, we want this guy taken out. By the time we get to part two of this book, the story has completely changed. She has gone along fully willing for this ride. She is not from a difficult background. No one was ever, kind of against her or her upbringing, or who she ended up being. She just decides to kill this person because she wants revenge on him, based on what he did to her in the past. And as a reader, you're led to believe that it was basically sexual assault.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And by part three, this entire story goes out the window. So Murder Bimbo is the most unreliable narrator that I have ever come across in a book. The whole story is completely wild from start to finish. And I just thought it was fantastic. I was like, this whole thing is like a book on drugs or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny. It's captivating. And I was just like, yeah, this is just completely different from what I would normally read. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was like a completely out of nowhere sort of story, but it was just like a really interesting one to have. Okay, my next one is a book whose praises I will not stop singing because I refuse to do so. It's How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shailee Thompson. It is a combination of a kind of a rom-com, but mostly a horror. It's mostly like a slasher, if anything, that follows a woman whose friend convinces her to go to a speed dating event. They are at the speed dating event. The lights go out, and when they come back up, the date sitting across the table from her has been murdered. And there's immediately like a massacre that occurs directly after that. And it's obviously very quickly, everyone puts together that there is a killer amongst the group of people in the club sort of bar area that's being used for the speed dating event. And they need to work together, but there's also a lot of suspicion, of course, because as slashers work, I think most people forget that they're essentially at their core a whodunit to a degree a lot of the time. Especially when you're in a world like Scream or something like that, right? We never know who Ghostface is in every movie and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of follows that same formula. So it's got a ton of action in it. It pretty much like never stops once it gets started. It has a pretty good like romantic subplot that also kind of takes place. There's a bit of a love triangle that occurs. There are a lot of like interesting characters. There are a lot of red herrings in the story, so you're not 100% sure. I had a pretty good idea toward the end of where things were going, but not completely the entire way. So I do appreciate that it at least kind of circumvented some of my expectations, but it was just so good and so fun. And honestly, I think you would enjoy it regardless, like anyone really would, because it's just like a fun story. But if you are somebody who is into horror at all, to the degree that you at least know a fair few franchises and actors and characters' names within movies, all of the Easter eggs in this will be 10 times more fun. It was so enjoyable. I loved it. And I feel like it's going to wind up as one of my top at the end of the year, even now.
I mean, I know I've seen quite a few of horror movie franchises now, thanks to you. So
True.
I might be able to detect some of those Easter eggs. I really want to read this one. Since you mentioned it, I've wanted to read it. So please bring it to me.
Yes, I will. It's just such a fun concept. And I don't want to, like, I say this all the time, but I don't want to give too much plot away because I'm like, no, it spoils all the fun of like what you will actually get into when you read the book. So
yeah, Meaghan now just pictures my face when she gives away a spoiler, when she's on the cusp of giving a spoiler. So she stops herself, I think.
I do it with, especially with movies and things like that. I don't give away too much.
It thoroughly upsets me when I hear a spoiler.
Hey, you just described the entire plot of Murder, Bimbo, ma'am. Don't tell me you're not giving people spoilers for
the whole thing. Like, not the whole thing. Like, there's other stuff. Fine. I'm gonna like gloss over more details. Excuse me for getting
like, here you go.
excited.
It's because you're enthusiastic about it because you really liked the book. So it's normal, right? Like when you do, that's the problem. That's what happens is that we're all like, oh, and then this happens. And there's this really great character and there's this stuff. And then the narrative goes crazy because of this. And then eventually you're like, wow, I just told everybody what the entire fucking plot of that book.
They're totally going to be able to guess what happened.
Whoops.
Thanks for listening. Sorry, author.
Yikes. It's okay. I think it's a fun read regardless. I'm pretty sure that you should check out Murder Bimbo anyway, especially I think this is the title, if nothing else.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, now I feel bad. I'm sorry, Murder Bimbo author and publisher.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it does make me laugh because you're so enthusiastic about it that you tell us like the entire story and it's so fun. But I'm like, oh God, I hope nobody wanted to read that.
Okay. I'm going to try and gloss over details about the next one. Whatever. Okay. So the next one that I want to talk about, another ARC. Gosh, these are all ARCs.
You prefaced with it, so
yeah. But also, going back to like, I'm having a bit of an epiphany here. I'm going back to what I mentioned in our last episode, where I was saying I'm like kind of turned off of fantasy right now. Yep. I think it's because we've had so many ARCs of like so many different genres and different authors.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You're getting an opportunity. You're actually literally experiencing a way out of the fatigue.
Yeah.
That like, maybe you've been having.
And like now that I'm trying to read an ARC that's like a fantasy, I'm just like, oh, blah.
You're like, and that's it. That's the problem, I think, when you have the fatigue. Honestly, the story can be very good. Like there's, it doesn't mean that the book itself is bad or that you're not liking it. It's just that you at this moment in time are struggling with the genre itself, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Side note, I'm also now realizing that completing an English degree so young and being, not yet fatigued with the world around you is just kind of a missed opportunity because I was exposed to so many different types of books and genres that I don't think I fully appreciated like the extent of how great that was. But then at the same time, like you don't always want to be like told to read 17th century poetry, all that metaphysical shit.
Yeah, it's tough to juggle, isn't it? Because it's on the one hand, you're so thankful, one, for being able to sort of analytically tackle a lot of these texts and understand them so much in depth. But at the same time, there is that's it, again, a level of almost like fatigue. And I remember when you were at the point of basically finishing your degree that you were having trouble just reading for pleasure again because of a lot of that and because of a lot of what you're doing. And at the time you were actually just doing your MBA. So it wasn't even a question of of the
Yeah.
English lit side of things. It was just reading things and being forced to like, these are the texts that you are focused on. And you were like, oh, okay. So it's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
difficult. I'm reading all the time for school. It can be very difficult, I'm sure, for people. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, finishing your day and then sitting down with yet another book.
Yeah,
Regardless, even if it's something you picked up yourself.
Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, I just want to turn my brain off, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I digress. So the next one actually was a surprise. So it's an ARC, a book of short stories called Breathing is How Some People Stay Alive.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but when you asked me about this one, you were like, hey, do you want this like little quick read? It's like a bunch of short stories by like an Indigenous writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, cool. And then you brought me this book. Fun fact, this was not that book, Meaghan.
Oh, this was the other one. I'm sorry. I think I might have gotten them confused when I
Yeah.
sent it.
Because you did bring me the little book of the Indigenous short stories, which
Yes.
I also have to read. I'm actually very excited to read that one.
Mhm.
And I believe it's being published on May 5th, which is Red Dress Day. It's a day to recollect, reminisce on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that one. So you said to me a book of short stories, Indigenous short. I'm like, yeah, okay, bring it. This was not that book. This book was actually a collection of it was a collection of short horror stories. So surprise horror stories are even more scary.
They're the best.
They're even scarier.
The Brian's horror is the best kind of horror in my opinion.
Yeah, like it's like, you're kind of thinking you're about to kind of engage on like this like, very educational or like very informative journey, and next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, what the fuck is that robot doing? So it became very apparent to me when I read the first story in this, I was in my brain, I was still like, maybe this is the collection of Indigenous short stories. I'm like, maybe I'm looking for like some deeper meaning in this robot story. I'm joking. I obviously realized at this point that this was not the book that Meaghan had mentioned to me. But it was actually very well written, the first story. And so I was happy to keep reading it. I thought it might be a sci-fi collection of stories.
Yeah.
Like sci-fi horror, because the first one was centered around a robot.
Mm-hmm.
I read the second one with that in mind. So my brain was like, okay, so this is sci-fi. So I kind of like, shifted gears into my sci-fi brain. And then it was not a sci-fi one. So what I was trying to do was I was trying to like not read up too much on this. And actually there was very, very little information out there, like on the internet about this, which I found out when I was writing my my review. But I like to go into things blind, so I just kind of didn't look it up or expect much. And so I'm thinking, okay, so this is sci-fi. I get to the end of the second one, I realize it's not a sci-fi story.
Right.
So then I'm like, okay. So I go to the third one, and again, there's this through line of like horror, but not in like the most obvious way.
Okay.
It's not like somebody walking through the high school gym and like chopping people's heads off,
No.
Each story has something very creepy and insidious happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be very, very curious to find out if when a man reads this book, he would feel the same.
Okay. Like if you would feel the sense of dread.
Yes. And like familiarity of the type of horror.
Okay.
And because what I was detecting as a bit of a theme, and I don't know if this was quite as prominent in every single story, but what I did find in a handful of them was that the horror in the stories was centered around like what it means to be a woman almost.
Right. Okay.
And like the sentiments and the fears and like the experiences of, being a woman, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
that I think men find it very difficult to resonate with in a lot of ways, because it's not so obvious. It's not so obvious, and it's also kind of constant in some ways,
Yeah.
as like a constant in our background of our everyday lives.
Yep.
And something that we're also raised on, to be aware of and be mindful of. And so that's what I found really interesting about this set of short stories, was that it was very subtle.
Yeah, I would assume that it wouldn't resonate in the same way. And that's not an insult. It's simply just because there's less relatability potentially for a man than there would be for a woman reading these stories. And so the sense of unease that you feel when whatever is happening on the page is happening might not be something that a man would feel in the same way. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised by that. But that's interesting. I always I don't know what it is. I like female-centered horror, generally speaking. Probably, again, because of the sense of relatability that comes along with it.
Yeah, and I find that like a lot of the time, it's not like exclusively like female-related horror in the subtle way. It's just kind of like, oh, like, you know, she's the main character. There's something very obvious going on, like that is horrific, but there's also that second layer of it that exists, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's see. My next few, I'll try not to spend too long on these. My next few are just as, again, it was like a little break in the middle of things. It's like a fun, sweet little romance, was How to Write a Love Story by Catherine Walsh, which is, I love a book about books sometimes just because they're fun in general. Follows a relationship that develops between an editor and the daughter of a very famous fantasy author who's passed away, who is essentially finishing the last book in his like very epic fantasy series for him, as kind of like part of his last wish, but of course is struggling greatly with it. So the editor essentially flies out to try to help her with it, and they kind of develop like they're a good relationship. It's set on the Irish coast. It's got really great banter. It's just like genuinely funny. Like a lot of the interactions between the characters are funny and charming and adorable, and I loved it. And it was just like a fun, really sweet kind of reprieve. So I really appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to switch gears into talking about movies?
Yeah, we can switch it up, and then if we've got like a few more little ones, whatever, here and there to shout out, we can do that at the end. So we can do.
Like, I have a list. Okay,
I've got 1, 2, 3 others, but anyway.
Fair enough. Okay, okay. Here, I'll talk about some of my favorite movie adaptations, and then you can kind of bounce off of that, and then that'll take some time off yours.
Sure, sounds good. Let's do it. Do TV shows, movies, whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna go with first one I'm going to talk about, and this doesn't mean that this is my top favorite, so we're not telling any of these in any like order.
I guess we should have prefaced with that, but no, we're not.
Yeah. So this one comes to mind first because I enjoyed it both for the book that I read leading up to watching the movie adaptation, and this was Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation.
Oh, right, yeah.
So this was the first ever Emily Henry book that I had read. And it immediately gave me like vibes of like kind of more of an old school rom-com that just had like a coziness to it.
Yeah.
With how the characters were written. They were quite witty. It reminded me of like British humor. I don't actually know if Emily Henry is British.
No, she's not. She's American.
She's American. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't sure, but there was a bit of like British wit to it that I enjoyed. I don't know if that was intentional or not. And so when I read the book, I actually thought that the title meant that who they become on vacation is people that they meet on vacation, like people within themselves.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Anyway, so I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was fun. It was a nice read to do in like February as well, because it was quite light. And then I quite enjoyed the movie. Like it was a fine, fun movie. Like, you know, I wouldn't go back and like watch it over and over and over again.
Yeah, agreed. But, it was like decent. Did I love it? No. Did I hate it? No, of course not. It was just fun and easy.
That's it. Like, would I watch it again? Maybe. Like if I wanted something like this in the background, you know what I mean? So like it was good. And I'm glad that I read the book before I watched the movie, because like this would not be a book that I would ever read after watching the movie, I think. But
yeah, that makes sense.
It was nice to have done both.
That makes sense. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, should I pop back to books, or do you want me to do them?
You do what you want, girl.
Okay, I'll just rapid fire these last ones. Two of them because I'm reading them literally right now. So I'm not completely finished with them, but I can already tell you that I'm really enjoying both. One that I literally mentioned in the last episode. So I'm just going to do that one quickly, which is the Morgan Le Fay trilogy by Sophie Keach. I got through the 3 books in the trilogy because the final one was just published on March 31st. This is a very cool feminist retelling of Arthurian legend from the perspective of Morgan Le Fay, who's, often just written as the like villainous half sister to Arthur. She's horrible. She betrays him, etc. Yada, yada, yada. But this trilogy essentially follows her from childhood all the way into adulthood, all of the sort of trials that she has to deal with, the things, the ways that society, particularly in this time period, but even now, tried to stifle, I should say, women's creativity and their ability to do things. In her case, a lot of it has to do with like her magical abilities, of course, that are kind of scoffed at by the people in her life, largely men, and how she harnesses her own power and kind of recreates her own destiny and her own life to a degree within that. It was a very cool series overall, and I really enjoyed it. So that was like a really great one. And then the last 2 that I'll hop onto really quickly, which, like I mentioned, I'm reading both of these right now. So I don't have like full final thoughts having finished them, but I'm like part of the way through both. There's Nothing Tastes Good by Luc Dumas is probably the way he pronounced it. It's Dumas. This is a kind of a body horror type of book. It's very culturally relevant, which is also something we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks as well. So that might be something I circle back to because I'll probably be done with it at that point. It follows a man who is and has for a very long time struggled with his weight essentially his entire life. He's in his late 20s. He's at a point at which he's reached, unfortunately, where he is completely miserable. He can barely have interactions with other people that he doesn't know very well. He's ashamed all the time. Nothing's gone right for him in terms of his career opportunities. He's not able to like go out and like meet a boyfriend and stuff like that. Like it's just, he has no confidence whatsoever. And after having found an ad online one day, he is given the opportunity to participate in a clinical trial for a weight loss drug that is becoming new to the market, or they're trying to have it approved by the FDA essentially. Basically, again, I haven't gotten like far enough to get to the full aspect of it, but everything that I'm given to understand thus far is that, of course, he becomes eligible to participate in this trial and is probably able to start fulfilling his dream of finally losing weight and keeping it off. But of course, there are more sinister consequences and side effects to this drug than I think is completely advertised. It is very relevant in the GLP-1 universe that we are kind of existing in at the moment. So it just feels like a very relevant sort of read, but I'm really liking it so far. Like the descriptions of things, it's just unsettling enough. And you feel just a general, like pretty large amount of sympathy for the character overall. Like there's a lot of relatability to it to a degree as well. For anybody who does feel that they're struggling in any capacity with any of this, and that's it just with the land of Ozempic that we live in right now.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it just feels like it very much falls into that wheelhouse. So it's really cool and I'm really enjoying it so far. And then one that I finally bit the bullet because it's popped off everywhere online recently, but I decided to check out Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, which I finally got around to starting. I love that you don't have TikTok because if you did, you would know exactly what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So this is a series that's currently 7 books in, with the 8th book, which is on its way in May. So just in a few weeks from the time you guys are hearing this. I believe the first book was published in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. This, I feel like a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. This is one that I think was very popular with the guys for the last few years, but now the BookTok girlies have gotten their hands on it and discovered that it's actually just like a really fun series. And so it's everywhere.
What's it called?
On my fucking For You page, Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, so, I really am a boomer, aren't I?
You really are. It's ridiculous. So at its core, this series follows a guy named Carl who, just due to happenstance, in the middle of the night is saved from what is essentially kind of an invasion by this like intergalactic organization of Earth. They take over the entire planet. The majority of people on the planet are killed. And those who survive are given the opportunity to enter the quote unquote dungeon, which is basically treated as, it's a crawl that you're doing. They're all called crawlers when they enter the dungeon, and you are essentially playing, it's gamified. You're essentially in a video game to a degree, and it is like a game show video game style that is viewed by allegedly trillions of viewers throughout the galaxy. So
I'm reading the description. This looks so fun.
Yeah. So Carl finds himself in this situation with his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, and they enter the dungeon and have to figure out a way to survive each level up themselves, and figure out like basically how shitty they want to be and how far they want to take this.
Oh my God. I need to read this right now.
You know what? I'm surprised your husband hasn't actually.
I feel like he was telling me about this the other day, but you know when you're like so tired that at the end of the day, the other person just kind of sounds like one of the adults from a Peanuts cartoon.
Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, he might have been, because I feel like he would know about this at this point.
I feel like he was talking about this.
Everywhere. They're developing a TV series, as far as I know. Like, it's all over the place right now.
You know what it was? It was bath time for our daughter, and he was like, "Oh, there's this book series that I got to tell you about. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl." Or I think he said something about like she was making a lot of noise. She started shrieking at this point, so I don't think I actually heard the name correctly. But I remember him saying something about Carl, so I was like, okay, like you're gonna have to tell me this after, you know. But then obviously you never remember to actually talk about this anymore. Okay, I have to get my hands on this book right now.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I'm almost done with it, so you're more than welcome to borrow it after. But it's just like, you know, it's got like that level of fun, but like much kookier than when you read like Ready Player One, for instance. It's like that, but it's like a lot funnier. And
I really enjoyed Ready Player One.
Oh yeah, it's a lot wilder than that. Like it's nuts. You're just kind of like, yeah, okay. But I think you know what? I will say I'm not particularly a gamer, but I got into like the style of the game and everything pretty much immediately. I'm sure that if you are, there's even more enjoyment to be had with it. Probably just because of the way that it's put together. You can tell that Matt Dinneman has played a lot of video games in his life in order to be able to put this together. But that's my last one, because I'm over 2/3 of the way through it at this point. I think I'm going to be done it within like the next day or two. And it's just like a really fun one. And yes, I will be getting to the rest of the series at some point for sure.
Yeah, right. It's going to be like 10 years from now. Megan's going to be on book 8.
Probably.
I don't know how you do it, man. If I start this and I like it, I'm going to devour all 7 books and be and then you're going to be miserable after. And then you're just going to be like, there's no more. And now I have a book hangover, but I saved myself from that. So. But how do you remember the details of the last book?
I mean, sometimes there's like bits and bobs that I do forget, but I just kind of get back into it and I figure it out, or I'll read a recap. Fine.
I don't know. I just start like, I don't know. When I finish a book that I really, really enjoy and I know there's another one in the next series, it's like when you have a craving for something that you just cannot stop yourself from going to eat. I have no self-control. None.
I have a lot.
Anyway, I need to talk about Wuthering Heights because I just feel like you were a little unfair, and I feel like I went down that rabbit hole with you, and I really enjoyed the movie.
Okay. You are more than entitled to, but it's nowhere on my fucking list.
You know what? I think I enjoyed it so much because it made you so mad.
Ugh. Waste of my time.
But like,
waste of the ghost story that could have been told in that, you know what, keep all the other garbage in it that you want to, like keep the weird sexy thing in it, do whatever you want to do, have the 35-year-old playing somebody who should be acting like a teenager, that doesn't really make any sense, like do all of that stuff, but at least give me the gothic, and I got none of it, and it's so disappointing.
You know what? Again, fair enough. You make such good arguments. Your anger is so well founded.
My soapbox remains intact.
It's true. Like, this is why I went along with you on your whole thing, because I was like, yeah, actually, these are very well thought out arguments, and I actually agree.
I think it's okay for you to still just enjoy it at surface level for what it was.
Yeah, well, I
it's
think
just, you know, there wasn't a lot going on, and I was
exactly
like,
I think if you were like in the mood for like a really like, I don't even know how to describe it, like over the top love story.
I guess it looked beautiful, I suppose. I guess, do you know what though? I think ultimately too, I think one thing that I did kind of find disappointing, if I try to like shut my mind off from all of the aspects of the storytelling that I did not enjoy at all, I think what kind of got on my nerves at the core was that I didn't think that their chemistry was that incredible. And I was like, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I guess there's that too.
Yeah, I think like, you know, if I want to like just tell myself, Meaghan, ignore all the rest of it, it was just an interpretation from her perspective. She obviously has a huge crush on Jacob Elordi, and this was just like her way of showcasing that and inserting herself into the story, I get the feeling. And that's fine. That's valid. But I feel like she, I don't know. I feel like I was just so disappointed with the fact that I was like, I mean, they're fine with each other. But I'm like, this isn't that sexy. And I thought it would be sexier. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you just need to like be a little more boomerified and just like, you know, stop looking and
not be aware of things.
So stop being so immersed in like all the spicy romance that are in like basically every book now.
I was going to say, I'm like well aware of a lot of it anyway. Yeah. I don't know. I'm the only one between the two of us who reads dark romance. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm
saying. I'm too involved.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because you're like, you know, a few layers lower than me on this ladder, I guess.
Yeah.
Or above me. Anyway, I don't know where I was going.
My ladder is descending into hell, and I'm fine with it.
You heathen.
Yeah. That's okay.
With your sinful thoughts.
Yeah, maybe that's why. You know what? No, you know what? I can see this. It's true. If a lot of people just read like maybe slightly like fluffier, like contemporary romance and stuff like that, I can definitely see this would probably be a little spicy for you, like a kind of more along those lines, or like much more romantic. I was just kind of like, ugh.
If you're in my mindset about this movie, you're watching this in a movie theater with your mom. So you're like, you know what? I don't want this to be too.
I don't think you want it to be that heavy.
Like, I don't. It's kind of a weird dynamic on this Friday night.
God, that would be funny. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Hopping on, that's it. I guess other ones that I would want to highlight, which I know I did highlight in the last episode. The other ones I would want to highlight would definitely be His and Hers on Netflix, because it was just it was just fun. And like super fast paced, very twisty in like a lot of cool ways that I didn't necessarily see coming, which is always really fun with a thriller. I enjoyed the performances. I thought overall, like the story was eerie enough too, to really kind of like keep me interested. And I was so like, okay, what the fuck is going on by the end of it, that I really wanted to like get the answers to things. And I really appreciated that. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, not on my list.
No, I know. We talked about that in the last episode as well.
Anyway, wait, do I have one more, or should we wrap up? What are you thinking?
No. You go ahead. Yeah, whatever you've got.
No, there was the last adaptation I need to call out, just because I have to, and I feel like we need to enter into some sort of partnership at this point, is Colleen Hoover's Reminders of Him.
Really? You're putting that on your list of favorites?
Yes, and I will tell you why. Okay. Because this was more of an immersive experience. No, I'm joking.
What?
No, I'm joking. I'm completely joking. It's because, remember, I had said
Was it your whole thing about the fact that you'd forgotten that you read the book, or you thought it was a different book?
Correct.
Yeah.
But this goes back like 2 years on the pod. So
I know.
Like, it was fun, you know, it was just funny because I was like, oh shit, this was the book I read.
I couldn't believe it when you were like 100 pages and you're like, oh my God, I've read this book.
Well, this is what I mean. So that was very funny.
That made me laugh.
And the movie was, you know, I guess the most decent Colleen Hoover adaptation movie we've seen.
I guess so, yeah.
Actually, no, you're right. We established that It Ends With Us was pretty good because we actually both enjoyed it, didn't we?
We did overall, I will say, like, ignore all the other aspects of it. But yeah, generally speaking, like, I found that overall it was quite well done. Yeah. I think it almost dealt with the subject matter better than, like, arguably maybe the book did to a degree. Yeah, so I was like, okay, it kind of like pushed forward like the harsh realities of this sort of thing and like domestic violence. This one was just like funny. Mostly because you were like, this is ridiculous. This is going on for so long, guys.
It was ridiculous. The whole movie was ridiculous. The whole story was so ridiculous. Like when I read this book, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this, like, story, you know? But as we have all established or that we have on the pod, Colleen Hoover's books are a lot crazier than the movie adaptations, and so
I think the screenwriters know that they have to like tone it down, or people will be like, "What is happening?"
Well, they won't really hit the mark with the masses.
No, definitely not.
By eliminating some small details.
Yeah, like if you're just walking in to see like a romantic drama, and you're by the end of it, you're like, "I have to get up and leave." Like it's not a good sign.
Pretty much. It's kind of sappy. It's kind of something you expect, like, as a higher production value than the Hallmark Channel almost.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think for that reason only, I did kind of enjoy the movie because it felt kind of cozy, kind of like.
Yeah. It was just like silly. Like I wasn't sitting there being like, I can't believe I'm wasting my time on this, but I was just like, okay.
Yeah. Like I like the side characters that they added in the movie. That made it fun. It was just kind of cute. So,
that's fair.
So that's why I have it on there.
Awesome. Okay. And then, that's it. I guess like last like couple, I will shout out Project Hail Mary overall. Just because,
of course.
You know, it was overall for what they could do. I think it was pretty decent adaptation. Honestly, like it was fun. It was, like heartfelt and everything overall and stuff. There's a lot missing, but it's difficult in like a 2.5 hour film to really get everything that's in an entire book. So unfortunately, there's only so much that can be done. But overall, did enjoy it. And on that small note, I just have a couple of like little mini ones at the end that I wanted to shout out. A couple of audiobooks I've listened to since the beginning of the year. So Project Hail Mary is right up there because the audiobook is so good.
Not in German. If you don't
know
German,
go listen to the episode where we reviewed Project Hail Mary to hear about that. No, but it's a really excellent audiobook. It's narrated by a guy named Ray Porter, and he's like fantastic. I kind of, because I've only listened to the audiobook, I kind of have to question if I would have enjoyed the book as much if I just read it, or if this is one that was elevated due to the narration that was done on it. I kind of feel like it was. I could be wrong, but anyway, really enjoyed it. And then last one is actually an audiobook that I am listening to right now that I'm like a good portion of the way through, that I'm having a super good time with, which is called Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan. It is narrated by a narrator named Stephanie Nemeth Parker, and it is set in a small East Texas town. It's very Southern charm, but with vampires.
Okay.
And it basically follows a family of women whose job it is essentially is to keep the vampires at bay when they happen to make themselves known in this small town. And it's just like multiple generations of women who all have kind of different perspectives on the matter. It's fun. It's the audio. Yeah, it's like horror. It is, but it's like horror comedy kind of.
Adding it to the list.
Yeah, it's just a fun one overall.
Thriller.
not really. But anyway, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And it's just like the characters are fun, the circumstances, like even when there are moments of horror within it, but it's not like all you're ever getting from every single page that you're on kind of thing. But the narration's great and it's fun because she's using like a little Southern accent when she's voicing the characters, which I think makes it more fun as well.
Oh, wait, this may not be the same. No, this is different. Never mind.
I don't know what you're looking at. The author's name is Lindy Ryan.
Okay, now I found it.
Okay.
Horror. The other one, there's another one called Bless Your Heart, a thriller, also an audiobook. Available.
I mean, I believe that it could very well could be more than one with that name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all I have on my list. Did you have any other ones that you wanted to like shout out?
No, it's been pretty fun this year. I must say I'm enjoying our new format of the pod.
This is giving us a lot of enjoyment just in general.
Yeah, I wonder what our listeners think.
It'd
be really great to get feedback. We used to have a theme every month on the pod, and we used to try to find movie adaptations and or just general types of chats that fit into the themes. We did it for quite a long time, didn't we, Meaghan? But it started to become very difficult to it wasn't just to come up with like new themes, but it was being careful of not repeating the same type of discussion.
It's hard after a while.
Adaptation, especially when you have a very specific type of taste, and we don't both always have the same tastes. So by having way too vast of like a library to choose from, it actually became more difficult to settle on things. Whereas now we just review whatever is coming out as it's coming out.
Yeah. And, it gives us an opportunity to, I think, keep our more sort of diversified like reading habits which both of us have in terms of just genres and everything. And it's a little bit lower pressure to one, have to come up with things, or to feel like we're painting ourselves into a box of having to read a particular genre at a particular time, and having no other choice. So it's been nice to be able to kind of get away from that. But anyway, any feedback obviously is always appreciated. You can let us know about that over on our socials. We are at fullybookedca everywhere. You can also check out the website at fullybooked.ca. Shirin mentioned a couple of times we have quite a few reviews up on the site of, advanced copies that we've received, currently published works as well, recommendations, some deeper dive kind of editorials and everything like that. So we've got a fair bit going on over there if you want to check that out as well. And then next week, exactly like I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to sit down and have a little bit of a chat about some interesting sort of books that fall into like culturally relevant moments to a degree, and maybe examine the idea of some of the aspects of these books and some of their themes or the topics that they tackle, and kind of what kind of staying power they might have in the future.
Yep, totally.
And what that'll look like. So in the meantime, guys, until we are back next week, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.
This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.